My boyfriend is homeless. This a long one. I am not quite sure where to start. It is already overwhelming me, but I am not sure if I am handling this the best way possible. My boyfriend of 5 years has a substance abuse problem since he in his early 20s. He is 7 years older than me. He is in his 30s and I am in my 20s. I was very young when I first started dating him, so I overlooked a lot of red flags, but as time went on, I realized how bad his alcohol intake was. He's an alcoholic and does too much of the white stuff. He does other things that he tries to hide from me. It's been really toxic. He's been emotionally and mentally abusive. He's damaged my apartment and he's physically harmed himself, put me in some scary situations where I thought I was next. I couldn't leave him. I love him in a way I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was completely losing myself for him just to keep him. Along the way a lot of situations happened. I caught him doing a lot of hurtful things. He's compared me to women, he's put me down. His exes have been a problem, but most importantly his substance abuse, and I have paid for it because I have stayed. I worry about him and I think of the dream I created in my mind that one day he's going to be better, and I want to be there for that. I want to be part of his life when he's better because I believe that we can be happy if he just got better. I know he has a good heart. I realized over time that he's quite manipulative. Somehow anytime I brought up that I felt sad, or if I cried, or if I expressed my frustration about his drinking and how neglected I felt and how neglected the relationship was, a horrible argument would start where I was called horrible things. I would cry so much and sabotage my life. I am trying to keep this short, but it's been a very difficult relationship and I've stayed because I care about him and I worry about him. His family is very dysfunctional. They don't take his substance abuse seriously and they're very cold and hurtful. I've never felt comfortable around them. I felt scared at times. He is alone. He doesn't have friends. The friendships he's had have always been transactional or work-related, but when it comes to just having a friend who checks in on you, who spends time with you, talks to you just because they care about you, I am not sure I've met them. A lot of people come in and out of his life for work-related reasons, and there's always something that goes bad and somehow he's always a victim in it, and to me he seems like the victim, but I am only getting his side of the story. He's done the same thing with me and his work friends and family. They think I am crazy and horrible. He's good at convincing them that I am the problem in his life. I know I haven't been perfect, but I can't understand how it's valid to treat me so horribly just because I cared about him getting better and for him to try for us as well. Our relationship does not feel like a relationship. He does not take me out on dates. We don't do the normal wake up on Sunday morning, go on a walk, grab a coffee, spend time talking together and laughing, doing nothing or everything. We don't do that. I spend a lot of time on my own. I see him late at night or he comes over to sleep. He sleeps a lot during the day. He's on his phone most of the time. He tells me he's working all the time, but he's also spends a lot of time mindlessly scrolling on social media or looking for things he can buy, even though he tells me he has no money, and lately it's been a gambling game that he seems addicted to, spending hours on until the morning playing that game. I spent a lot of money on his birthday to have a good time for him to spend most of the time playing that gambling game, except when we were watching the show because he cannot be on his phone, and I think he enjoyed his time, but that was it. A few months ago he showed up drunk and I was on the couch playing my PlayStation. He comes in drunk telling me things I did not want to hear. I was also upset at him because he saw me crying on the couch before he stepped out because I was frustrated over seeing him drunk. Did not ask me if I am okay or check on me, so I started to play the game to make myself feel better. He comes back in drunk, telling me things that I didn't want to hear that were really triggering. I am not going to get into too much detail, but it was messed up and he was being very weird about his phone. We were arguing and I was sobbing uncontrollably. I was crying really loud. The door was slammed and caused the picture frames to fall. He did push me against the wall to get his phone back from my hand. One of my neighbors called the cops. They showed up and handcuffed him. They asked me if he touched me in any way. I lied, said no, I just wanted them to leave and I wanted to go to sleep, forget this ever happened, but he made my life miserable after he said I was trying to put him in jail. He walked around the apartment talking on the phone about me, saying hurtful things about me to other people and how he was done with me and how I am crazy that he's moving out. He said his mom was flying out here to help him move out. So I told him I am going to be gone for a week so you can move out. When I came back, he was still here. He tells me that he had an overdose scare and scared his mom that he's done. I felt a bit blindsided, but part of me was happy to see him. We talked. We said we would work on our relationship while living separately and also working on ourselves as individuals. I took his word for it. I've been in therapy. He's still drinking. He told me he was moving in with someone for free that he started to work for. I was a bit upset. He left me with the burden of rent that was coming up in a few days. a $500 electricity bill that he has not helped me pay and damage to the apartment he has created, but I stayed quiet to not upset him. He went to go live at this mansion for some people that he was working for, and just as I expected, I rarely saw him. He would leave his dogs with me to take care of them while he was working and partying all the time. I saw him a handful of times that first month, and I spent a lot of that month crying and begging him to spend time with me, to be with me. I even had a medical emergency, and he told me I was doing it for attention. I was crying to him. He hung up on me and blocked me. He unblocked me a day later. He was acting like nothing ever happened. After some time I started to adjust living by myself, trying to adjust my finances, and I found some peace in living alone. I didn't care for him to come around as often, but I started to notice he will come around when he needed me, if he needed me to take care of his dogs, or if he couldn't be where he was staying because eventually he got kicked out of that place, and then he moves into some other people's home in exchange for his work. But whenever they needed him to be out for some time, he came around to be with me. I rarely felt he wanted to be here. Every now and then I did, but most times it seemed it was because he had nowhere else to go. A lot of our relationship, his finances have been very unstable. He had moments where he made a lot of money, but he was irresponsible with it and lost it all. He's done some shady things to get money or work in return for a place to live so he can continue to follow his dreams for the film industry. He gets involved with sketchy people to be in that place, or he gets involved with sketchy people sometimes to live somewhere for free. It's been frustrating. I feel like I am doing the best I can and I am his punching bag when things are not going his way. Last week I asked him to leave my apartment because he was drinking, and I told him to respect my boundary when he's around me, to not drink, to not bring it into my home, especially now after I bust for this place by myself, and I am trying to keep the peace here. I don't want alcohol in my home. He got really upset and told me more hurtful things and tried to use my trauma with my father's alcoholism against me, almost like if he doesn't have an alcohol problem himself. I asked him to leave and he got mad at me. I didn't talk to him for the rest of this week. I felt so disappointed and hurt. He's been texting me, but I am not ready to talk to him like that. I've been telling him I need space right now, but then he texted me that he was drugged on Thursday night, so 2 days ago from today. He said he went to an art gallery party, he drank beers. He goes to an after party and the owner of the house put a bunch of Molly in his beer and he did not know until after, and he feels horrible that he might need to go to the hospital. I have a hard time believing that. I believe he took that willingly and he just got so messed up, and now he feels sick because when I lived with him, he would get so messed up he would be really sick for days. I was not ready to see him, so I told him he needs to get help and I can't keep going down with him. I need to put my mental health first and I am not ready to be around him, especially after he told me this information, because now I am even more triggered about his substance intake. He repeatedly asked me throughout the day if he can come lay here and how he's done doing this and that he needs me or that he can't do this by himself and how horrible he feels that he is dying. He later mentions that the person who he's staying with that he works for is going out of town and he can't be there in the meantime. He feels horrible, so he just needs a place to lay down. I was standing on my boundary that I can't let him in here, but eventually around midnight I tell him he can sleep here but he needs to leave by 9 a.m. I feel bad that I don't want to see him right now. I stayed in my room and let him sleep on the couch. He started texting me in the morning. It felt like he was trying to guilt trip. He tells me he feels horrible, that he just needs to lay down more, that he had an accident in the bathroom. I apologized and told him I am not comfortable with him being here. I need space. He left but was still texting me telling me that he's in the car with the dogs, which I feel horrible about. One of those dogs was mine, and then he told me that she wasn't and he took her. It seems like he has been putting them in unfair circumstance where they have to be in a hot car with him. But I tried to tell myself that all his actions lead him to be where he's at now. He continues to tell me that he was feeling horrible. He needs to use a bathroom, but he doesn't want to leave the dogs in the car alone, so I told him he can come use the bathroom here so the dogs could be in here in the meantime. But I told him he needs to leave after. He told me some more guilt-tripping things, but he left. Around 7 p.m. today he texts me he needs to charge his devices because they're about to die and he needs them to be charged because he has nowhere to go charge them. I was taking a nap at that time. He was at my door and that's when I saw his messages. I texted him please leave. This is when he stops playing the nice card and starts telling me I am the worst person. I am horrible, that he can't believe that I am just going to let him live in his car, just saying the most horrible things about me and how terrible he thinks I am, cussing at me how I am the worst person he's ever been with and how much he regrets me. I tried not to really respond to him. I just told him he was being really hurtful and cold and I don't deserve to be talked to like that. Eventually, I felt really bad and I told him that he can come in and charge his stuff for an hour, but I am gonna need him to leave after. So I close myself in the room he comes in and he does his thing. He then starts texting me more horrible things when the hour was over because I still wanted him to leave. I feel really bad. I am starting to feel like an evil person because I am just letting him live in his car with these two really sweet dogs, but I feel like I gave so much myself over and over, especially with his substance abuse. He doesn't seem to care about his finances enough to get a stable job because he wants to keep living his life to fulfill his dreams, which is okay, but I feel he needs a stable income right now and do everything else on the side in the meantime while he gets himself back on his feet. It's been like this for years, and I find out from other people it's been like this even before him and I were dating. We've been together for 5 years. He refuses to get a job just like how he refused to get help with the substance abuse, and his words have got to me. Maybe I am horrible for not letting him stay here. I am only trying to protect my mental health. For so long I pushed it aside because I wanted to show him how much I love him, and now I am trying to choose myself and let him figure it out. I feel so horrible and guilty or shame. I don't trust my opinion if I am doing the right thing or if I am a horrible person. TLDR, my boyfriend suffers from substance abuse. He is financially unstable. Our relationship is really toxic due to these things that are harming him and our relationship. Everything is completely neglected, and we lived together, and now he's moved out now for 2 to 3 months, but he was just kicked out from the place he was staying at. He's jumping around from place to place and I feel used. He comes around when he needs me, but when he feels on top of the world, he rarely see him. I am trying to put my mental health first. I don't want him bringing his lifestyle into my home anymore because it is so triggering. I need time away from him with all this. He told me he's done doing all that and is guilt tripping me, but he dropped the nice card, started talking to me horribly because I don't want him to stay here with me.